Hi, I am Kristi Farina. I am the principal at Monument Mountain Regional High School.
And I'm Peter Dillon, the Berkshire Hills Superintendent.
I'm Patrick White. I'm a Selectman in Stockbridge, and today we're going to just have a conversation about the school district and how things are going. So first, the topic on everyone's mind, how is the current surge in COVID impacting the district?
It's a really good question, and it's something we're struggling with. It's a little different in each of our buildings. We've been able to keep the elementary school kids in pretty much straight through. Pre-K to second grade, they're in 4 days a week. And the third and fourth graders are now in 2 days a week and working remotely 3 days a week. We hope to bring them in next week, assuming the numbers stay good.
Okay.
And the middle and high school kids are largely in remotely right now. And again, we hope to bring them back in.
But you have some classes here currently.
We do, yeah, with some of our highest need kids, our
Right.
kids with special needs, our
Right.
English language learners, and a small number of kids who've got limited internet access.
And how are they doing emotionally with all of this? It's been a tough year.
Yeah, it's a struggle. When we had our kids in hybrid and I would walk around the building, most of them would share that they miss school and that they were happy to be here and that they don't want us to be in remote learning. So we are doing everything we can to have them here. Obviously, we're concerned for them when they are at home. Some of them are pretty isolated. They don't see their friends like typical teenagers do. So, we're working really hard to provide supports for them.
And with the current worry about the surge, it seems like there's some likelihood that it'll be even more remote coming out of the holidays. You guys have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, we look at the numbers all the time, like almost religiously daily, and talk to the public health people. I'm hoping we can sort of stay in the bubble we've stayed in all along, but at some point in the near future there might be a second surge or a third wave, and then
sixth.
Right, and then we would revert back to the remote thing.
And how, there's been a lot of stories about how COVID has impacted enrollment. Are we seeing some folks who are just not engaging with school like in many other parts of the country?
Not as bad as in many of the other parts of the country. Our enrollment's off a couple percentage points, and that's really a testament to the principals who aggressively recruited some kids to come in as we lost some students to homeschooling. Thankfully, we don't have many or hardly any students who disappeared on us. And across the Commonwealth and across the country, that's been a little bit of an issue.
Right. How is COVID impacting the school's budget?
The challenge has been around particular costs: PPE, masks, gloves, cleaning supplies, in some cases staffing issues, a decision to go to smaller classes,
right.
particularly at the elementary school, but we tend to budget very conservatively. We got a little bit of extra federal money this year to help defray some of those costs, so I think we're in okay shape. As you know, the governor and the legislature in Massachusetts is still working on last year's or this year's budget now. So we're waiting to hear how that goes, and I think that'll be okay. And then almost immediately as they finish that, they'll start working on next year's budget.
And do you anticipate, obviously municipalities, luckily Stockbridge hasn't fallen into this category, but from municipalities to the federal government, this is going to have a tremendous impact on state revenue streams. How do you anticipate coming out of the pandemic, state aid is going to be impacted by what's going on now?
Yeah, I mean, we care about state aid, but it's a small part of our overall budget. Same with federal aid. With the change in administration, it's likely there'll be a little more federal aid in education, which would be welcomed. We have a little bit of excess and deficiency, which is like the town's free cash, and that gives us a little bit of a cushion. And in particular, Senator Hines has been good in securing some rural school aid, which we're eligible for. So that ends up being the equivalent of about a full-time teaching position. So all those little things come together and add up.
And in terms of people looking for outdoor recreation during these times or any times, are the grounds open to the general public?
The grounds are open. We had them not available for use when we had our fall sports, so that
Right.
when students were out on the property, we didn't want the general public here using the
But
same
generally, like on a weekend
property.
or, you know.
They were closed in the spring, and if we got to a point because the governor forced us into full closure, we would likely close the grounds again. But while we're open and remote hybrid, the general public is welcome to come. They use the tennis courts and the tracks.
Okay, because I came here last fall with my dog, and I was hoping I wasn't breaking any rules. So
Yeah,
that's
no,
good
it's
news.
good, and we're excited to hear.
I was captain of our cross country team in 1979 and 80. So I'm just saying, you know, I've got I know those trails well.
Excellent. Our cross country team this year had an amazing season.
I know
so.
we had one really good runner. It was not me. But yeah, I read that that
Yes.
you guys did really well. So let's talk a little bit about, you know, the sort of capital investment in schools. So the elementary school and middle school are set to be paid off what, in 2022 or 2023?
2023, I think
Okay.
October of 2023, and hopefully that frees up some resources that let us do a project here.
Right.
The high school's in need of something, whether it's a renovation
Mhm.
or a new building remains to be seen. We're hoping to hear from the MSBA in the coming weeks or months about getting back in their queue to do something, and then we'd work with architects and designers to come up with a good plan to start pitching it to the community and making an argument that we hope would be successful.
And one of the things you're looking at is sort of investing in the trades more, sort of like, you know, sort of career preparation for folks who might not be on a college track. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I know, you know, for a lot of folks in this area, really having some of these skills has been a path to, you know, a really great income in sort of the post-GE years.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we started looking at our CVTE programming,
What does that stand for?
career vocational technical education.
Excellent.
About 2 years ago, when Sean Flynn stepped into a coordinator position to help do some analysis of the programs we currently have, what their standing is. So we have Chapter 74 Automotive, Chapter 74 Horticulture, we have the Early Childhood Program, Woodworking, Computer Technology. At the time, the state released grant funding in what are called innovative pathways, and we applied and were accepted to begin an advanced manufacturing pathway and a healthcare pathway, both of which are industries in Berkshire County that are growing.
Right.
And so we're in our second year of developing that programming, and we think that that'll give two nice new pathways to some of our students who are interested in staying in Berkshire County and going into those fields.
And will that impact the sort of out-of-district enrollment by having stronger programs like that? Don't, you know, obviously today students have public school choice, which is something we didn't have back, you know,
Right.
in the ancient times when I came here. So how do you see building those programs impacting the overall enrollment?
I think two things will happen. First of all, we do have school choice, and we get a lot of students. Actually, almost 3 times as many students come in to our district as go out of our district, which is great. And then the second thing is we have these tuition-based vocational programs. We can actually charge the sending towns more for the education that those students are getting. So that's a little bit of an opportunity to increase our revenue, which will sustain
Yep.
staff.
And also pay for the renovation.
Right,
which is
right.
great. You know, it all kind of works together. Obviously, you know, the quality of district, the rankings tend to consistently be very high. You know, I saw in 2 different ranking sites that we got an A-, which is awesome. It's one of the highest ranked districts in the county. How do strong schools relate to property values? Because obviously, there's really 2 issues I see. One is, you know, that there's a case to be made for strong schools and property values, but the other is, you know, the town has maybe half the residents, at least Stockbridge, that we had when I was a kid, full-time residents, and really attracting families based on a strong school system is, I think, another great case as we're trying to maintain a residential, you know, critical mass in our towns.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's this adage: as schools go, so go the communities, and people in our communities, our 3 towns, but also the communities outside of the 3 towns, really value this school and our school system. And in the context recently of COVID, I think a lot of people moved up here because our schools are comparable to private schools in other locations, right? We meet kids where they are, kids work hard, the relationships, and I think this is something that's been this way for 50 years. The relationships in this building between faculty and students and staff are extraordinarily strong. And there's a nice tradition of if a kid wants to, or a young person wants to do something and get support, almost like the sky's the limit. Kristi, you just have to
I would just add that I think Monument Mountain is very unique in that we are a school that is truly comprehensive, and there are so few truly comprehensive schools.
What does that mean?
Where we have the career pathways that I just described, but we also have an incredibly strong arts and music program that is really grounded in our community, that we have such support in arts and music locally, and we have a very strong college preparatory AP path for students who want to go off to the top Ivy League schools. So we really, I think, historically have done an incredible job of meeting students where they are and all students' needs. And we have a progressive vision for how we're going to continue to do that, and we're doing a lot of outreach and applying for grants to really help us in that work. So.
Well, I think going to Ivy League schools is great, but I personally am curious if you've sent anybody to Boston College lately, because that's where I went coming from here. So I'm just saying, the really, really top tier schools are the Eastern Massachusetts Catholic schools. But whatever. Anything else you want to add?
I mean, I do just think I would expand on the programming redesign that we're focused on. We got over a $300,000 grant from Mass Ideas, which is funded by the Barr Foundation and Nellie Mae, and they're helping us rethink what education should look like for the next generation of students, and how we can build on the strengths that Peter mentioned around relationships and really tapping into student interest, and build that more holistically into how we actually run our entire program from when students enter in 9th grade until they leave us as seniors.
Great. And the only other thing I'd add is we're really blessed with being in a wonderful community or multiple communities. So we've got all sorts of partnerships with local businesses, with cultural organizations, with hospitals, medical care, mental health. The way our communities come together to support us, and then we've leveraged all sorts of grants to continue to support that, has been really wonderful.
Great. All right, well, thanks for taking the time. Let's hope it came out.
Yeah, great.